I mean, are you surprised to hear? Did you know that companies self-affirm that? I mean, think about all the chemicals. When you turn around a food packaging box and you see all those chemicals, you don't know what they are. Neither does the FDA. I mean, essentially, because these food companies have decided that they're safe.
Welcome to the Represent More podcast, brought to you by We Are Them Media. I'm your host, Ryan Clarkson.
And I'm your co-host, Shireen Clarkson.
All right, Shireen, happy Monday.
Happy Monday. How was your weekend? We didn't hang out this weekend, so how was it?
We did not hang out this weekend.
We still haven't had a chance to catch up, so we'll catch up live with everyone else.
We will, or recording wise.
Right, we're not quite live.
In fact, I don't know why I said happy Monday. This is probably going to air on Tuesday or Wednesday. It's fine though.
Off to a great start.
Yeah. But start of the week. So yeah, you were in New York all weekend.
I was out of town. I was in New York, and I had a great weekend. I had a good week. I went out there.
You?
Yeah, I went out there to help my sister move back to LA. She's been out there on her acting gig. And so I went out there to help her bring back her 2 dogs. That was my big mission. And
they're so gentle.
They're so quiet and calm.
So docile.
And sweet. And they've never bitten anyone.
What kind of dogs are they again?
One is a Schnauzer mix and one is a Pomeranian Chihuahua mix.
Chihuahua.
I mean, just 2 little
Very
guys.
Relaxed.
They're sweet, But anyway, it was quite a mission to get them back to LA with our suitcases and our luggage and our.
You were supposed to be back earlier in the evening yesterday, but you didn't get home until
we
missed
early
in the morning.
We missed our first flight, so we got on a second flight. The second flight was sitting on the tarmac for an hour and a half, and it was just one of those travel days that really.
At least you traveled. At least you had first class.
Tested me. My sister got some great photos of me just upset in the airport.
At least you traveled business class though, which is
no, we did not. No.
Why?
Our business. Well, that was the first flight was business class, but we missed that flight.
Oh.
So the flight we got on was coach, middle seats.
With the dogs?
With the dogs. And not sitting with each other. So my sister was over there. I was over here.
Which dog did you have?
I had the Chihuahua Pomeranian.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well,
Tokyo is his name.
Welcome back.
Anyway,
it's
nice. It's nice to be back.
Adie and I had a great weekend.
Yeah. What'd you guys do?
We spent a lot of time with friends on play dates.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you do with a little 9-year-old kid on the weekends.
On Saturday, we went to the Santa Monica Pier to ride the rides, and she brought her friend, and who's a really good little guy, and it turns out that at the pier there was a private event.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Salish's launch of her. She's like a YouTube influencer.
Yeah,
she's a tween star,
right?
I think she's like this generation's, Kardashians or whatever. You know what I mean? Just in terms of their power and influence.
If you have a child from ages 7 to 12, a girl in particular, maybe boys too, you would know who Salish is.
And she and her dad they do these YouTube videos. And anyway, I was able to get us into this event. So me, Adia, and her friend Cord.
Yeah, you were the hero of the weekend.
They rode all the rides. And then at one point, Salish was in one of the booths where you can kind of play the games and win a prize. And she was throwing out merch to a sea of tweens that, the crowd was 10 deep.
Yeah.
And I'm, afar, and I'm videotaping this whole thing, and I see the security guard start to divide a path from the booth towards where I am. And I kind of backed myself up against the wall, and Salish then came down as the sea parted and walked right towards me, and Adia and Cord were right behind her. Stopped her, asked for a picture, and I was right there, Johnny, on the spot to get like a fantastic picture. of them with Salish, and they were just over the moon about this.
Yeah, that was the first thing she
So-
told me when I saw her. I
Did she?
came home, hadn't seen her in 3 days, and she's like, "Mommy," and she gave me a big hug, and she's like, "Guess who I saw? Guess who I saw this weekend and got a picture with?"
I mean,
So-
what a thing she's developed, right? She and her
Salish.
father. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
And this
Yeah.
was Netflix. I guess Netflix has offered them a show, so she's moved from YouTube to now Netflix.
yeah.
And Netflix was, I think, producing the whole buyout and the product
Yeah.
launch.
Well, every time I see Adia watching Salish now, I'm like, stop. And we're always trying to get her to not be on YouTube. I'm like,
Yeah.
get off YouTube. She's like, no, this is Netflix. She's on Netflix now, so
Yeah,
it's okay.
Okay.
So yeah, she's got her show.
Netflix, man, they're just eating all of entertainment, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's amazing what
Yeah.
they've done.
Yeah. There's like a few big companies that are just taking over everything, it feels like. I just heard that I read that Uber is launching Uber boats in countries in Europe. So now countries like Italy, I can't remember all the countries, a few countries in Europe where they have bodies of water where you sort of taxi
Yeah.
around. You get an Uber, like in Venice, I imagine.
Uber gondolas.
Uber boats. So you just on your phone and you get a little Uber boat to come your way.
Okay.
Yeah. These companies
it
are
makes
taking over.
sense.
Yeah.
I mean, what's beyond that? There's probably Uber planes, Uber helicopters.
Uber private planes. What about that?
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know.
Private
I don't know
jets,
if
PJs.
will that market work?
Sounds crazy. I don't know.
I don't know why it wouldn't work. I guess there is a sharing economy of idle jets just sitting and
Did we just come up with like a really good idea for Uber? Should we go pitch
I'm
this?
sure they haven't thought
They've
of it.
never thought of that. No, we just came up with
It was an original thought that no one else has thought of. None of the good people at Uber.
No.
Good people. Did you hear about, speaking of Uber, the initiative that they tried to sneak through?
What's that?
This recent bill in Washington where they're trying to create immunity from suit for themselves.
Okay.
It's under the cover of darkness, some Republican congressman or senator slipped it into some spending bill, and it's been this really big thing. I don't have the specifics on it, but
Okay.
I probably should.
Yeah.
But
Immunity
I wasn't
from
expecting to talk Uber.
Right.
I just know that it's something that people are
Yeah.
very up in arms in our business about.
We'll have to look at that. Immunity from what kind of liability, right? Because there's so many different suits against Uber for all the activity, but I wonder.
Well, I think this has to do with something related to either motor vehicle accidents or their sexual assault problems they have on their hands, right?
Right.
Because many people are talking about the initiatives that they've funded in California politics to try to get immunity passed through the state assembly. So,
Yeah.
and then certain trade organizations, including CAOC, California, Consumer Attorneys of California, which tried to, lobby for common sense legislation that's supportive of the public and consumer rights and survivors of abuse and policyholders, et cetera, have their own countermeasures that are working their way through the referendum process, et cetera. It's really unbelievable the way that our law firms and our bar have locked arms in order to try to oppose this, multi tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars poured into politics to try to, shield
Influence.
these big technology companies from liability. It's crazy. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. There's only so much, there's only so much, I guess, we can do. Well, there's ways to battle it. And that's one of the ways.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we are seeing some success. We are seeing some successes in our work. And
yeah, we are. We had a very recent big success. Do you want to talk about it? Should we get into it?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
So we had a big settlement. Why don't you tell us all about it?
So our Apple false advertising settlement settled, and it's a big one. It's a groundbreaking settlement.
Yeah. Remind us what the Apple case was about.
So first of all, it's a $250 million settlement, and it's huge. I think I think it's maybe the largest false advertising settlement in history. So we're very proud of it. It's a big number, but and listen, big numbers are wonderful because it means a lot of money is going to be returned to people who allege that they were aggrieved, right? In this case, consumers of this particular product of this class of iPhones, 16 and 15, certain 15 models. And so that's a big important thing, but also it's a measure of impact as well, in my opinion.
And the false advertising was?
So this case involved what was alleged to be AI washing. So think about greenwashing cases where products, say cleaning products or detergents or, certain garments, whatever, are advertised as more natural and better for the environment. And we think about those as greenwashing cases. AI washing is where a technology company touts its artificial intelligence capabilities. And it turns out that the capabilities aren't what they were advertised to be or what they were promised. And so that is essentially the framing of this case.
Yeah.
And what's been resolved.
That these iPhones had AI technology that they didn't necessarily have.
Yes, certain artificial intelligence features that Apple said it was going to roll out, but still hasn't rolled out. And there are questions about, whether they ever will.
Yeah.
Apple, to its credit, says that it will, via a software update, provide future AI features, and they'll do so at no cost to consumers or class members as part of a software update. And they're also, of course, denying liability, which is pretty standard in settlements like this. But we're all very, very proud of the result.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big congrats to the team.
Gracias.
Yeah. And
gracias.
I mean,
could I have rolled the R there a little bit? Gracias. Jeez.
Yeah, the iPhone. It's like we keep buying another. I have to buy a new iPhone or a new phone because every year or two something new comes out, right? And I'm like, oh, my amazing phone could be like this much more amazing, right? And so I'm gonna buy the new version, and I just keep buying more and more phones. But this AI technology, that's the reason everyone was buying the new phones, or it's probably like the big driver. So yeah, I mean that's a great result. It's amazing.
We're super excited about it. So where we are now is we have to go through an approval process. So once you agree on the settlement, then there's a whole drafting phase that can take months. In our case, it took many months because we negotiated over every little detail, every dotted I, every crossed T was negotiated hard. And so it took several months. Actually, I think it took like 4 months between the time we had a settlement in principle and the time we presented that to the court via what's called a motion for preliminary approval. And the preliminary approval motion essentially tells the judge that these are the terms. We believe them to be fair, adequate, and reasonable, and that the court should allow the class to react to the settlement by either making a claim or taking some other action, whether it's maybe they object to it, maybe they opt out, which are less common. But that would give the court some insights into what the class thinks of the terms of the settlement. So that's the process we're in right now. I suspect, so the preliminary approval hearing is going to be on June 17th, I believe, mid-June, in San Francisco. And then assuming we have an entry of the preliminary approval order and we check that box, then we will give notice to the class, and a notice and claims period will commence within about 6 weeks thereafter. So think about maybe early August as the start of the window that purchasers of these particular products can make a claim to the settlement fund.
Okay. And notice to the class in this kind of a case is going to be by email because Apple has information, everyone's contact information. Is that right?
Well, it'll be a multi-channel notice program. So there will be emails, there will be an online some publicity, there'll be a press release. So we will be getting the word out so folks can, know where to visit, what website to connect to in order to make the claim.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then as to the claim, the presumptive amount that every claim will be paid is $25, which could go up to $95 depending on how many people make claims. So,
Okay.
which is a nice, it's not an insignificant amount. I mean, this is a solid amount for a case like this.
Yeah.
25 to say $95.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you get $25 minimum. And if there's not 100%, if the funds are not depleted by all the claims, then it'll be sort of shared pro rata and people might get up to $95. Is that what you're saying? Or is
No,
it
it's a little different. So
okay.
It's $25 presumptive, which could, depending on the number of claims, go up to $95. If participation is super high, it's possible that it could result in less than $25. But I think based on past settlements and what we understand, solid claim rates to be, that's unlikely.
Yeah. And then it'll be likely 25 to 95.
That's what we think. Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay. That's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Thank you. And credit to the team for doing a great job. At our firm, so I'm one of 3 co-leads. So myself and then Brian Danitz of the Kachette firm and then Larry King of Kaplan Fox. And we just work so well together. I mean, I thought it was a real positive work experience and collaboration. I'd like to work with them some more going forward. And each of them have phenomenal colleagues that, really worked well with our team. And then on our team, Yana Hart, who's the partner in charge of our artificial intelligence and data privacy practice area, as well as our head of litigation, Tim Giordano, Brian Thompson, who's counsel on Yana's team, and then the paralegal supporting that team is Danielle Murray, and she was phenomenal as well. So the whole squad, and then of course there have been others that have pitched in along the way and done tremendous work. So yeah, just super proud of the team and
super proud of them too.
Credit to everyone for getting us this far, and now we want to push it over the finish line.
Yeah, great, awesome. Any other highlights that to mention on Apple, or did we cover it?
I mean, listen, I think that's about it for now. But as the case continues to unfold through the approval process, we'll of course keep everybody posted.
Yeah.
Anyone who wants to receive an update on the Apple case can go to togetheron.ai, and that'll take you to our artificial intelligence initiative website, and you can sign up for all kinds of updates on the Apple case, of course, but also our Meta case and our other healthcare artificial intelligence cases, some of our gig economy AI cases involving employment. So we're doing AI work, as you know, across a number of different practice areas. And so we've got a central kind of news repository where folks can sign up and get regular updates on each of those cases, including Apple.
Great.
Yeah.
Good. I feel like we talk about AI a lot because it's a lot of the work we do, and it's a big focus of you in particular, your practice. And then the other thing we talk a lot about is food, because that's my big interest, and and a big part of what the firm does in terms of practice areas.
Yeah, there are a lot of food bills working their way through Congress right now, aren't there?
Yeah, there are, which is something I want to talk about. So there are 28 food safety bills that are being
28?
that are being debated right now in Washington, and that will likely change the way food chemicals are regulated in the United States. And this is a big
Can we just
deal.
pause there for a
Yeah.
second? Press pause on this for 1 second. 28 bills?
Yeah, I don't know that that's necessarily the alarming fact.
Well, let me get my thought out here.
Okay.
Why are there 28 bills? Why can't there just be, a bill, that's comprehensive, that has, a proper food safety regime associated with it instead of having 28 piecemeal bills? I mean, that seems like a waste to me.
Well, I mean, look, the bills are addressing different nuances and different areas. So maybe that's why. I mean, I don't know. I think a big food bill might
convince me.
Look, I don't know. I want to talk about a couple of them in particular that I think are really interesting and will not only affect what we eat in America, but also how we practice law. So there's sort of two angles I want to talk about. The biggest one that I'm interested in is the bill that will change the GRAS regulation, which is in America, when a new ingredient or a new food is introduced to our food system, the FDA has to be designated as safe. Makes sense, right? Generally recognized as safe. And right now, the current system is that food companies can self-affirm that a brand new chemical, brand new ingredient is GRAS, is generally recognized by as safe.
So the food is safe. Just ask the
chemical maker or chemical manufacturer. Yeah, exactly. So that system is flawed for obvious reasons. And what some of these bills are trying to do is require these companies to submit scientific testing and scientific conclusions to the FDA for actual approval. So, I mean, are you surprised to hear? Did you know that companies self-affirm that? I mean, think about all the chemicals. When you turn around a food packaging box and you see all those chemicals, you don't know what they are. Neither does the FDA. I mean, essentially, because these food companies have decided that they're safe.
What does it mean to self-affirm?
So there's two ways they can do it. They can hire, these companies hire their own experts and conduct their own studies.
Or employ them, I assume.
Perhaps. Conduct their own studies and then they self-designate that food as GRAS. They don't even have to notify the FDA.
So there's no peer-reviewed studies, nothing like that?
No, that's one way, self-certification. The other way that companies can do it sometimes is a voluntary FDA notification, which is basically that they submit their safety data to the FDA and they say, they basically self-affirm, but they present it to the FDA and say, this is our scientific support, and the FDA essentially rubber stamps it. And the only reason, and it's voluntary again, and some companies do this because they're concerned about future enforcement actions, or they want, investors to invest money into the company, and that's sort of a helpful way to do it. Or
there might be look at my FDA stamp.
Yeah. Or they want international access. Sometimes if they want international access, they have to, they do this, so they have this FDA approval. So there's some reasons they do it. But either way, the FDA isn't as involved as I think consumers would like to feel good about.
So pausing there for a moment. So essentially, you've got the fox saying, we're going to guard the hens. Just trust us. We've got the key, and everything's going to be fine and safe, and nothing to worry about. That's what's happening here.
That's right.
And so they've got these studies that are self-funded.
I'm surprised
that they have a profit motive to have the food concluded to be safe by the FDA, right? adjudicated as, I guess they're not adjudicating anything, but at least rubber stamped, certified as safe. That is very different than what, say, a pharmaceutical company needs to do if they're going to bring a drug to market.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a more formal approval process. Yeah, much more difficult to do.
Much higher bar, right? You've got clinical trials, you've got peer-reviewed studies, there may be a waiting period. Is there any of that, anything like that in connection with this?
Well, like I said, there's no formal approval process to get a GRAS designation. That's the whole problem. That's the big debate.
Okay, so let me ask you this then. Is it possible that a food company could just say, well, you know what, we're dealing with food ingredients that aren't as serious as, say, pharmaceutical grade ingredients or something like that?
I don't know what their explanation is. I don't think that flies. I mean, these foods we're eating them every day. People are eating them every day. These drugs, I mean, I'm glad there's an approval process there, but I don't see why it would be different for foods, in my opinion. I'm sure there's reasons that they put forth, but I don't know what they are.
So an example would be what? Do you have any examples of some of these food ingredients that are used?
Oh, yeah.
What do you have?
It's like natural flavors, artificial flavors, citric acid, maltodextrin, all these food dyes.
Carrageenan, the yoga mat chemical, right?
That's right. I mean, think of it's all of that, all this stuff. I mean, look, the reason the GRAS designation is and was so lax in a sense is because it started off as something that they instituted for common foods like salt and sugar. Like those are GRAS. The FDA doesn't need to approve those things because back in the day, in the 1950s, when this GRAS designation came about, we didn't have all these food chemicals. We just had sort of standard, a lot more standard foods in agriculture. And so things were just designated as GRAS by the companies themselves because there's no major.
That makes sense.
That makes sense. But as these food companies have started to develop synthetic ingredients, there was never any evolution of the FDA guidance and approval process for GRAS. So it just never came up. It just never caught up.
That's what's odd to me. Salt and sugar, the idea of generally recognized, like the general public recognizes something as safe.
That's right.
I get it.
Right. But like we all agree.
We all agree. Generally. We agree.
Generally speaking. Yeah. Right.
But with these food chemicals that no one's ever heard of, you need a sophisticated understanding of how they behave as chemicals, right?
Exactly.
How could any general member of the general public recognize something as safe? It sounds like GRAS has really evolved away from what it's originally intended to do.
Exactly. 99% of the food chemicals introduced since 2000 have entered the food system through this self-affirmation. So all the chemical, and then think about in the last 5, 10, 15 years, how many new studies have come out saying that this ingredient is unsafe. This is now concerning. This is a carcinogen. So
this has been linked to endocrine disruption or, a precursor to cancer or whatever. Right?
And correct. And these are the types of cases we bring, right? We say, hey, this ingredient in this food is not safe. Look at all the studies that have come out ever since this, GRAS designation, or forget about the GRAS designation. Some of them don't even have it, but
that's what our case is about. That got RFK elected from the Maha moms and dads, right?
I think, yeah. You mean his movement in support of trying to get more regulation,
the food supply.
Yeah, and that's where we've talked about this before, and that's where I tend to see eye to eye. I don't disagree that we need to clean up our food system and that there are problems, but the Trump administration, like putting aside RFK, is anti. So on these bills that are being debated, they are anti-regulation. Not terribly surprising, but that is inconsistent with RFK's movement on these issues.
Yeah, no, the other thing I was actually really surprised to see is the Trump administration. I guess I'm not surprised, but because there's so much inconsistency from Washington these days. But you've got the Maha movement, right? And then you have they're very pro business, and they're very pro
Correct.
food company.
Yes.
Right. And
that is a conflict of interest.
And then you've got their take on the position on the glyphosate cases, right?
Yes.
The Monsanto v. Durnell case that just went up to the Supreme Court.
Yep.
Where the Solicitor General under the Trump administration came out in favor of immunity for Monsanto in connection with the glyphosate cases. This was the thousands of cases working their way through the court system across the country in connection with Monsanto's alleged failure to warn about the cancer risks associated with the use of glyphosate. And these cancer victims and the families of people who have passed away as a result of cancer that they tied to the use of glyphosate products like Roundup. The Solicitor General comes out in favor of Monsanto immunity on that. I mean, how is that consistent with Make America Healthy Again?
Right.
It's just so weird to me.
That's exactly right. And it's the same with this bill. So this bill that I was alluding to is on GRAS. There's a reform bill presented by a New Jersey rep, Frank Pallone, who's actually a great consumer advocate. And the bill basically proposes that this GRAS loophole be repaired. And this is how. Companies need to submit actual scientific evidence to the FDA, have it approved, and before they put chemicals out into our foods.
Right.
And also it would require that every 3 years companies do a check-in and make sure that the studies that have been done still support that conclusion.
Sounds like a step in the right direction.
Of course it does. The only downside, I suppose, and the issue that the companies are taking with it that is supposedly in the consumer's best interest is, this is going to cause delays. But that's really a delay to their pocketbook, in my opinion.
What's the delay, though? What delays?
The FDA, the approval process is so slow. And so that ingredient, that food chemical, that huge benefit to society is going to be delayed. And, the company just wants to get it out to the public.
So they just use the same recipe for their Cheetos for a couple years until they get a GRAS approval based on actual science submitted to the FDA,
right? To
swap out, whatever for orange number 5 or whatever. Right? Come on, what's wrong with that?
No,
so
they're saying
the Coke recipe remains the same,
right?
Until you can swap one ingredient for phosphoric acid or whatever it is,
right?
What's wrong with that?
Well, then they don't get paid as quickly.
But
that's the problem.
But speak more on that, because I think that's what people don't understand. How is that? Make that connection for me. How does that relate to their pocketbook?
Well, if a company can't get approval, if it requires approval for a chemical and it can't get it for another year, 2 years, or 3 years, then it can't use it in the food and therefore make that food more shelf stable or more mass produced more easily, or whatever it is.
Or with a cheaper ingredient.
With a cheaper ingredient, whatever it is. I mean, that's why they're making these chemicals. It's to feed people by the masses. It's to keep foods on the shelves longer. It's to make food cheaper.
It's crazy to me. The more we kind of the further along this timeline we move in terms of food manufacturing, the less natural and the less food-like, I guess, food that we see and are able to purchase in grocery stores actually seems. It just feels like food chemistry. It's all crap.
The only way to avoid it is to eat whole foods. Just don't buy food
at the Whole Foods grocery store, or the more broadly speaking?
More broadly speaking. So don't buy food that's in a package. I mean, that's sort of a simple, very hard to follow rule, but
that's not realistic.
It's not realistic for most people. Even people who are pretty hardcore about whole foods, like me, can't avoid certain packaged foods. It's just, you can't avoid it. And then you got the chemicals in there, and you can only do so much.
The other issue with that is there's a cost issue, and it's hitting people particularly hard right now because of this energy crisis and the inflation that's being caused as a result of what's happening in the Middle East. I mean, groceries are crazy expensive right now. Have you noticed this?
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter who you are. People are feeling that. And it's very hard to go into a grocery store and you've got, one version of a food that maybe is healthier versus another food that, is more shelf stable and can, last you longer and is more cheaply priced. To make those trade-offs, especially right now, it's tough.
Yeah, absolutely. And the convenience factor of the packaged foods is real, But
that aside, I mean, the cost associated with buying healthier foods is just off the charts.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, by convenience, I mean, it's everywhere. You go to the airport, for example. I was traveling this weekend. I can't find a Whole Food to save my life. You can't find an apple or a banana. You know what I mean? It's like bars and chips and crackers and cookies, and that's all it is.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
I think one of the this is going to sound hyperbolic. Maybe it is to a certain extent, but
say it in that way.
I will.
Tell me.
The air travel at these airports is such a miserable experience. Unless you're flying like Delta One, where you get the separate entrance and the separate security, where you don't have to wait in line for hours and hours, and maybe they have access to food that is real food, isn't just like an ultra processed food in a package that you can get from some store where you can also buy a book and a trinket for the kid.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you do that,
I know.
It is such a miserable experience.
It's the worst.
No, so listen, laying around sleeping with their shoes off and their feet smelling.
Oh.
And the dress, like they just woke up or they've been sleeping.
Yeah.
And living at the airport for days or weeks.
Well, what about on the air or on the airplane? So if you get, if you take a coach seat, which we all do, well, and I did in particular this weekend in the middle seat in the middle row, I was sitting next to two guys, both whom had their shoes off.
What? They had their shoes off sitting on either side of you?
They both did, and I had the dog, under me.
This is New York to L.A.?
Yeah, and then
so
the guy...
is a 6-hour flight?
Oh, yeah. And then the guy comes over, listen to what I said, the guy comes over, the flight attendant, and asks what we want to purchase, because in coach you don't get food.
Were you like
you can only purchase
some booties?
They don't
for
give
these guys?
Yeah, I do have any. No. I said, can I have the chicken sandwich? And he said, we're out. And I said, oh, can I have the cheese box out of that too? What do you have? We have pretzels, cookies, and, Cheez-Its for sale. And I said, so you came, I'm in row 44 in the middle. I literally said this to him. I'm in row 44 in the middle seat, and that's all I get. Like, you ran out of all the food? He's like, yeah. I'm like, wow. Coach, we're really second-class citizens, aren't we? I said this to him, and he looked at me like, oh, geez. And he, I got the pretzels or whatever, and he left. And then he came back like 10 minutes later. He's like, I got you a chicken sandwich. You're not a second-class citizen.
Really?
Yeah. He felt bad for me. Anyway, I really had to call him out for him.
Sometimes the squeaky wheel gets the grease. You know what
exactly, I mean? Exactly. Anyway, yeah, airport travel. We really went on a tangent.
Airport travel and the planes. I mean, it's just it's so bad.
I know.
And I think a big part of it too is consolidation of the industry. There's so few options, and they're just not competing for customers in the way that maybe other industries, I don't even know what other industries there's still real competition in. Everything is merging and consolidating, where competition is almost an illusion, right? I mean, look at food companies, for example.
Right.
You've got 3 or 4 major food companies, and they have 100 brands. So it gives you the illusion of choice and the illusion of competition.
Yeah.
But it's all the same company. What do you have? You have Kraft Heinz. You've got ConAgra. You've got Mondelez, and maybe Kellogg. I don't even know. They're probably a brand with Procter and Gamble. I don't even know. There's like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
The illusion.
Yeah.
But air travel, man, bad. I think it's the worst. I think it's worse than the food supply.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, hopefully, look, so they're going to decide these bills like in this next month. So we'll see what happens with the food safety issues and this Gross issue. And
bills.
Destiny's
we'll see. Child.
Yeah. We'll keep you all posted.
Remember that song?
Yeah, I do. I'm from a child.
Remember how it goes?
Yeah.
Let us hear a little bit.
It's not happening. Not a chance, Ryan. No. I feel like you want to get it out, though.
Can you pass my food bills?
Oof.
Can you pass my food bills? Oh, my gosh. 28 bills, you said?
28 bills.
A lot of bills.
Mm-hmm. So, well, good.
What else is happening on the... anything else happening on the food front?
I mean, that's all I wanted to get into today. Nothing else on the agenda.
That's what we got. Anything else happening more broadly? What do we have coming up? What are we looking ahead to?
Well, we've got a partner meeting this week.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. We'll be doing an all-day think tank on Thursday. We'll go out to dinner with our partners, maybe celebrate the recent settlements.
Oh,
and I think it'll be good. Good week. What else we got going on?
We filed notices of settlements in our in a number of our fertility cases in state and federal courts around the country. And so those settlements are working their way through right now. I think we're all happy to close that chapter.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
especially the families.
And to deliver a real result for families who have just been through it, man. I'll tell you what, the IVF journey is not for the faint of heart. And when things go wrong, it's just so sad and so heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
The way that type of a dispute, that type of an injury affects people is it's among the worst that I've seen.
Yeah.
We should have Tracy on to talk about that.
Jinx. Yes.
Jinx?
Yeah. I had the exact same thought.
Tracy Cowan, our partner in charge of our fertility negligence practice area. Let's have her on to talk about her work because, you know, what she's done in that arena is God's work.
Yeah. Yeah. She's a wealth of knowledge, and a lot of people don't even know that they can get a lawyer to help them with some of the issues and claims that she handles. So I think it would be good for her to talk about what she does and the types of cases people can, use her for.
Yeah, that'll be super exciting.
Yeah.
And interesting, and I think engaging, and we'll do all that.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the next couple of episodes. So our Think Tank Thursday is this. So the first Thursday of every month, we have all of our partners fly in from around the country and we meet in person. And the reason we do it is because we're mostly remote. We're kind of checking in with one another through a remote working environment.
Mm-hmm.
And our workforce is largely distributed. We've got folks in Florida and DC and New Jersey and New York and Chicago and all over the West Coast. And so this provides the nucleus of the firm, the partnership, which is very strong and very connected, a chance to get together once a month and in a distraction-free, in-person way, just talk about firm business. And I really enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Do you like our partner think tanks?
Super fun. It's always super productive, and I think everyone enjoys hanging with each other. We've always said that.
And then we so we usually meet for the whole day. We put away the phones, the email, the texts. It's distraction free, and we just lock in and we talk about firm business, and then we do a nice dinner afterward. And usually Bahar Sadefi, who is a total foodie and a Michelin star chaser, picks the restaurant. She always does a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we know where you
Maybe.
know what? Wally's of Malibu, I think, just opened yesterday. I think so.
That's what we heard. Yeah. So we might go.
I'm hoping we get in
on Thursday.
Wally's Malibu.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
That'd be great.
All right. Well, something to look forward to. What else? Anything else? Summer vacay coming up?
Which we haven't planned yet.
Paris is going to be part of it. Amsterdam may be part of it.
Okay. We'll see. It's always spontaneous with us. Summer plans. We usually know a few weeks before we go somewhere.
You know, my friend who also owns a very prominent personal injury firm here in Los Angeles just texted me, said he's going to be in Cannes around the same time we'll be in France. So maybe we can meet up.
Depends on who that person is.
Oh, you love him. You love him. He's great.
You could tell me offline here.
Anywho.
Yeah.
Should we do rose, bud, or thorn?
Sure.
Do you have one?
I mean, I think my rose this week is my trip to New York, minus the travel part.
What was the rosiest of the rose? Give me a rose petal from your
The
rose.
rosiest part of the trip was just hanging out with my sister in New York. You know, super fun, running around. The energy of New York, I feel like you talked about this last time you were in New York, but the energy was so high and it's so social and everyone's so, in my opinion, so nice in New York. Like there's just so much, it's very social and it just felt very connected. We were in the West Village the whole time, which is just fun.
It's buzzing with energy.
It's buzzing. And it was really warm the night I got in.
Was it?
Like a hot summer night.
A hot summer night in New York is really
It
ideal.
was fun. And we just hit some fun restaurants throughout the weekend.
Any restaurants in particular you want to share? Did you go to Raoul's?
We stopped by there. They were too busy. We didn't get in.
Okay. You guys didn't get in?
Meaning we didn't want to
deal with the crowd.
Deal with the whole situation.
But your sister has juice in the West Village.
She
and I'm
has
sure
so much
at Raoul's.
juice. Yeah. She's like the girl version of you.
Right.
Yeah.
So nothing specific.
Nothing specific. Just, lots of laughs and good times.
Yeah.
With my sister.
I'd like to spend more time in New York. It's just so nice over there.
I know. It's great. Although I did specifically tell her I love New York for a weekend. For a trip.
You
love
wouldn't want
New
to
York.
live there.
I wouldn't, not at this point in my life. Maybe in earlier, maybe in my 20s, I actually think it would have been fun. But at this point, I really appreciate like a Malibu type of lifestyle, which is just slower and more beautiful in my opinion, and calm, and it just has a way of making me feel balanced. New York feels really high energy for me.
In Malibu, we had a fantastic weekend. It was all of that. It was very nature focused. The weather was beautiful. It was like 70 and sunny every day. People were out. It was quite nice.
Yeah. So that's my rose. Do you have a rose, bud, or thorn?
Yeah, I will. I'll give you a rose as well.
Okay.
My rose is my daddy-daughter weekend. It was really nice. It's we don't like when you're gone, and Adia certainly misses you. But we had some good time together. What was interesting, though, is she spent a lot of our daddy-daughter weekend with her pal. So it was a lot of play dates, and I felt a
third wheel.
A little third wheel.
Yeah.
But it made me very happy. And what was so funny is, so I grew up one of 5 kids, as you know, and my mother, whenever we'd go to like an amusement park or maybe Disney World or some kind of a thing like that, my mom would just be in charge of holding all the jackets and the bags and the shopping bags and all that.
Mom duty. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, your mom was like that too, probably.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think a lot of moms are. Yeah.
But I was on shopping bag and jacket duty.
That's what happens.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And they were riding the rides. I didn't ride a single ride at the Santa Monica Pier.
Oh.
I just held the bags and watched them have fun. But that also brought its own kind of unique kind of joy.
Yeah.
I was happy that they were happy.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
So that was my rose, I would say. My rose is the nice weekend that Adie and I had together.
Good.
Cool.
All right.
Well, does that wrap it up?
I think so.
Okay. Well, let me do this then. I'm going to go to the readout. Represent More is a production of We Are Them Media featuring me, Ryan Clarkson, and my co-host, Shireen Clarkson. Represent More is produced and edited by Marketing for Justice at Q Michelli and recorded live at our studio here in Malibu, California. Be sure to subscribe to Represent More wherever you get your podcasts and find us on Substack at representmore.substack.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.